Experienced one.
It's the truth, Mr. Speaker.
I call the honourable member Ian Lees-Galloway.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Well, after that speech from that member that strayed so far from the substance of this bill, can I say it's rather amusing to hear Mr. Banks from the ACT Party speaking so passionately about a memorial. It will be a memorial to that member and his party that will be constructed in the not-too-distant future. But, Mr. Speaker, I do want to come back to a very important piece of legislation. And the Labour Party will be supporting the National War Memorial Park Pukeahu Empowering Bill, despite the truncated Select Committee process requiring the bill to be reported back by the 18th of September, despite the fact that this bill overrides aspects of the Resource Management Act, because we are a constructive opposition party and we do want to work with the government where it is appropriate on a project that truly is of national significance. It's a pleasure to finally see a roading project which is of genuine national significance. Mr. Speaker, it completes, as other members have said, a memorial project which was first envisioned really immediately after the First World War, or the Great War as it was known at the time, a time when New Zealand was reeling from the death of over 18,000 of our people who went to Europe and served on behalf of our nation and on behalf of the British Empire. Countless others injured, countless families impacted by that really astonishing conflict at a time when the Industrial Revolution had delivered the firepower to create untold damage on people and on buildings and on the landscape, but had not yet delivered the manoeuvrability for soldiers, sailors, airmen and women to be able to manoeuvre around that firepower, and the effects were devastating. And it was out of that devastation that Prime Minister William Massey first explored the idea of a war memorial, which of course was first constructed in 1932 with the Carillon, followed many decades later followed a few decades later with the Hall of Memories, and then early this century the Tomb of the Unknown Warrior, and now this project to complete the memorial to obviously not just those people who served in the Great War, the First World War, but ultimately those who served in South Africa, in the Second World War, Korea, Malaysia, and Vietnam. Of course, we will soon need to add to that list the veterans of our peacekeeping activities in East Timor, also in the Solomon Islands, where we have been lucky enough not to lose anybody in combat, and of course what is really front of mind for all New Zealanders at the moment, those who have fallen in the conflict in Afghanistan. And of course we particularly remember the 5 who have fallen this month, Mr. Speaker. They will be remembered in this War Memorial Park, and it will be a place where New Zealanders can pause, reflect on that sacrifice made over the generations by New Zealanders, and also reflect on what it means to build a peaceful world, what it means to live in a peaceful nation, what it means to create tolerance and understanding in our work to find a future without conflict and without that level of sacrifice. And it is for all those reasons, Mr. Speaker, that we do support this piece of legislation. It is disappointing, though, and I'm sure that there will be a lot of people out there disappointed that it requires this empowering legislation that does override the Resource Management Act, and that real traction on this project has taken such a tremendously long time. The idea of the Memorial Park was first articulated by the Prime Minister Helen Clark at the time when the Tomb of the Unknown Warrior was first unveiled, and progress was made through to 2008. And as recently, well, as long ago in fact as 2009, the Minister, Chris Finlayson, was saying in response to questions from his own backbenchers that the government had the project in hand, that they didn't necessarily want to carry on with the vision that Helen Clark had articulated, but that they were making good progress. Well, Mr. Speaker, it is lamentable that the progress was not as solid as was made out by the Minister at that time, and we find ourselves now more than 3 years after that event debating a bill that gives the government the ability to rush a project that did not need to be rushed. But, Mr. Speaker, as I said, we in the Labour Party wish to be constructive, and we know that this is a project that New Zealanders want to see fulfilled. We now need to put aside the unfortunate delay, and we need to get on with the project. However, we also need to acknowledge that this legislation gives the government significant power, and that we need to have the right checks and balances in place to ensure that that power is used appropriately and wisely. So we are committed to the Memorial Park and we support this legislation, but we do want to see some changes, and we hope that these changes are given proper consideration despite the truncated Select Committee process. The role of the review panel that is established in the legislation needs to be widened, in our opinion, to include oversight of the consents that are granted. Given the range of consents and the overriding of appeal rights, we think that it would be right to give public confidence to the process if the review panel had this role. It is especially important in terms of the environment and heritage considerations that will go along with this project. The review panel needs to be able to report on its work regularly. We think a 6-monthly basis would be appropriate, and we think that report should be made to a select committee, and the most appropriate appears to be the Regulations Review Committee. We would also like to see prior consultation procedures with interested stakeholders before orders in council are proposed. The community forum that is established in this legislation could easily fulfil this role, Mr. Speaker. Finally, I would also like to see put into the law a role for the community forum in being consulted on the final design of the park. We think this is just simply about ensuring that what is created is something which the community can appreciate and which they will be able to buy into. As I said, Mr. Speaker, this is the completion of a vision that truly goes all the way back, nearly the full century, that the completion of this Memorial Park will acknowledge on the 25th of April 2015. And it is the completion of a vision that many Prime Ministers have articulated, of course, most recently Helen Clark, who was so instrumental in ensuring that that unknown warrior was brought back to New Zealand, and that we had that focal point of our memorials, and that this Memorial Park will be a proper completion of that project, and something for all New Zealanders to celebrate, Mr. Speaker, truly a project of national significance.
Just before I call the next member, can I just advise members about the use of electronic devices? When not being used for notes to refresh memories when speaking in debate, they should be placed on the drop-down work surface so that they in no way obstruct or interfere with the Speaker's view of the House or any of its members. I call the honourable member